Good morning. How are y'all doing today? Highly caffeinated. It's still early. All right, okay. Well, I'm Yvette Stott. It's my pleasure and honor to be with you all today and to introduce our Fireside chat. I'm really excited about this conversation. I hope you all are too. Often when we think about inclusion and access, we tend to think about it through the scope and the lens of gender and race. And today, what we're going to do a little bit different is we're going to widen the lens and talk about inclusion and access from a different angle. So with us today, we have Miss Margot Nack and Mr. Nick Novicki. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Miss Margot, who is a lifelong film junkie. So are you in recovery or still?
No.
No, okay.
No recovery.
No recovery. She is a strategic business developer at Adobe for the feature film and TV market here in Los Angeles, where she lives part-time. In her 8 years at Adobe, she has helped to bring new video products to market and integrate acquired technology into Adobe's Creative Cloud. She is always a sucker for a good story, so am I. And Margot currently supports post-production pros to ensure Adobe's technology delivers everything that they need to get their work to the big screen. So welcome, Miss Margot.
Thank you.
All right, and then next to me, I have Mr. Nick Novicki, who is an actor, comedian, and producer, which you had the pleasure to see a little bit of a highlight of his work. And he has performed on 6 continents, and we won't ask him to recite them in any order, but just know he is well-traveled and is global in his presence. He has several television credits, including the upcoming Dead Ant, so we want to make sure you all go out and see that when it hits the screen. He has produced several feature films, television pilots, and web series for various companies and networks, some of that are here with us today. He is a board member for Easterseals Southern California, as well as the founder and director of the Easterseals Disability Film Challenge, which we will learn a lot about today. While many Americans have disabilities, they are the most underrepresented population in entertainment and media. And for this reason and more, Nick has collaborated with Easterseals to create the film challenge. So welcome, Nick. So let's just kick it off. We all saw a glimpse of your work, Nick. Do you want to share with us a little bit more about the challenge?
Sure. So, hey, how's everybody doing? Round of applause for you guys coming out here. I see the coffee starting to kind of go into people. So, but my background is I'm an actor, comedian, and producer. I've been lucky. I've been in 50 TV shows and movies. I've got the chance to work with Scorsese, with the Farley brothers. But for me, I'm 3'10". So I learned really early on in my career, I was like, look, if I want to play the romantic lead or the gangster, I was going to have to create, write, produce, do it all myself, because no one was just out there like, hey, we want you. We're the Hollywood Club. Welcome. You know? So ultimately, like, work led to work. And I kept getting more opportunities because I was creating my own content. I wasn't waiting. I was always in production, always producing. And 6 years ago, I looked around and I was like, why aren't more people with disabilities creating their own content? Because as she did just tell you, we are the most underrepresented population. I don't know if you're aware, but the CDC just released a study that 1 out of 4 Americans has a disability. That is 61 million Americans. But yet we're in less than 3% of film and TV shows. So I was like just tired of these stagnant numbers. So I created this weekend film competition where over the course of a weekend, participants write, shoot, edit, and submit a 3 to 5 minute film based on a genre that we give out and themes. And the films just have to have one person with a disability in front of or behind the camera. We set up all these amazing mentorships and screenings at partner festivals, Dell Computers, Adobe. So no, we give a lot of amazing incentives, but ultimately it just kind of blew up. It started as a little idea, and now we've literally had films entered from all over the world.
That's incredible. Thank you.
Yeah.
Impressive. So you mentioned Adobe.
Yes.
And their role. So do you want to share with us a little bit about Adobe's role in?
I would love to. So Nick touched on a couple themes that are really important and really relevant for Adobe. So we make software. The reason we make software is so that anybody who wants to can be as creative as they want to be, and they can tell whatever story they want to tell, whether you have a disability that's visible or invisible, whether you speak a different language, whether you have money or don't have money. Adobe can give you the tools that you need to tell your story. And so one of the things that we're really excited about when we partner with Nick and the Easterseals Disability Film Challenge is that it's a way for Adobe to help people tell their stories and get them out into the world, right? Everybody has at least one story to tell. We don't all look alike. We don't all sound alike. We don't all have the same backgrounds. And people want to see what real people's stories are. And so if there's something that Adobe can do, like partnerships with organizations like Easterseals or Sundance is a good example of another organization we partner with, to enable people to get their stories told, that's what we're all about. That's what makes us really happy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and having partnerships with giant brands like Adobe and Dell, and being able to give that kind of software, it's really amazing because that motivates people to enter. But I think the biggest point is, just like for you all, you're all in business school, you guys are all entrepreneurs, or I feel like a lot of people are here. When you're in film, you need to be, it's an entrepreneurial, you're almost creating a different company with each project that you get involved in. And so a lot of it is incentive-based. Why do you want to do it? So having great incentives really helps, but it also really helps when we're able to work with companies like Adobe that really can help with accessibility. Because I don't know if you guys saw from in that trailer, our promo reel, but we had closed captioning. So not only were we also showing just what's being said, we're also showing an announcer speaks, sort of what goes on between the words. Because for us, we have to be complete, we have so many, when we're talking about 25% of the population that has a disability. We're not just talking about little people in wheelchairs. We're talking about the deaf community. We're talking about blind people, people with hidden disabilities. There's so many different forms of disability. And so ultimately, for us, we need to make sure that all people that take part in the film challenge can really enjoy the content. And so being able to work with Adobe and the Creative Cloud software, you're able to take your caption files or create them in Adobe themselves, but use that when you're gonna, turn it into a Blu-ray or a DCP, because we work with film festivals around the country and really the world now that are reaching out to us, along with studios, networks, and fellowships that are looking for our content creators and our talent. And so we want to make sure that we're providing everything as accessible as possible.
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting time technologically speaking, because we are at the point where digital tools are so much more accessible than they were like when I was an aspiring filmmaker, these many years ago. The fact that my 9-year-old kid can shoot, edit, lay in sound, publish his own videos like on an iPad or on a laptop or a Chromebook or something, it's amazing. And I think not only is accessibility of those tools really important, but technologically, we're able to do so much more with them. So you can add closed captions, you can lay in other languages. If you're, like you said, if you're going to a particular festival in a different part of the world, we make it easy to customize that content for the viewer, for the culture, the language that they speak. And I think that's really important, because if we're asking for more diverse stories, then we need to make those available to a much more diverse audience and make it easy for them to consume that content.
Mm-hmm. And I think what's cool about that too is, for the first time, people with disabilities are able to authentically see themselves. And so, if you got people within the deaf community, if you don't have captions and you got a room of people, they're like, wait a minute, what? This isn't for us. If they want to really feel like they're a part of it. And so I think when you have that technology that is able to allow people to do that, that's really a deal breaker. And I think really just the digital age right now, there's no excuse. The biggest thing I tell people, because people always ask me, hey, Nick, I want to get into stand-up. I'm like, then do it. Find a date and start doing it. Don't tell me, don't talk to me about it. You got to just set a date and do it. The biggest thing that most artists have is a deadline. It's a problem of actually creating the content. Well, now we have DSLR cameras, we have iPhones that people have gone on to have their film play in theatrical release distribution. So there's no excuses. The Film Challenge, what's so great about it is it gives people just one weekend. We're not asking people to spend a year dedicated to including more people with disabilities. It's just one weekend to inspire change. And it gives people an incentive and a deadline to finish. Because that's the biggest problem with the arts people. I know I'm talking to business people who are like, hey, we all finish, we know our deadlines. But you know, a lot of times in the arts community, that's a big hurdle.
Well, and I think one of the reasons that the challenge is growing so much every year, right, is because you're sharing that content, there's more socialization around it, people are exposed to it, and they're like, oh, I could do this. If they're doing this, I can do this, right? Because they see people with disabilities in front of the camera, behind the camera, making this happen, winning awards, getting publicity. And that's a huge motivator, right? And if we all want to see more diversity in the workplace, in the industry, whether it's in front of the camera or in post-production, seeing people doing the work is a huge step in the right direction because it gives something to people that they can relate to, and then they can set a goal.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's really the biggest thing. You know, beyond, so the Film Challenge has 4 different awards. There's a Best Film Award, Best Director, Best Actor, and then we have an Awareness Award. So that is a 10-day competition where people are trying to get as many likes, views, and shares for their films. So they're creating their own marketing campaign. We're getting people kicked off of Twitter from other countries, you know, because they're just tweeting so much. But really, this allows people to, you know, they have pride in it because the films aren't necessarily about people's disabilities. We have a triple amputee Iraq war veteran that enters every year. And he loves being a part of it, writing, shooting, directing, and not talking about his disability. Because for him, that's, you know, it's fun for him to just be, you know, the romantic lead, you know, and I think he markets himself unbelievable. But I think we're in that age now where it forces people to put themselves out there. And that's always the big, like, well, what do you do after you have your product? Now you have your film, your great thing that you're proud of. What do you do with it? Do you sit and wait, or do you try to, you know, guerrilla market it?
So that's a good question. So how do we get there? So how do we cast a bigger net to be more inclusive beyond the weekend and beyond the challenge?
Well, I think for the challenge itself, what's cool is that, you know, so I started the Disability Film Challenge 2013. I partnered with Easterseals, Southern California. Easterseals is the nation's largest disability services organization. I'm a proud board member of Easterseals. Since 2017, you know, we've just really exploded. But beyond that, it's the filmmakers themselves that have really made the explosion of the content. But now we're in a place where we're not necessarily reaching out to these networks and, you know, studios. They're reaching out to us. And I think it's not even just the networks and the studios now, it's Fortune 500 companies. They are all like, wait a minute, we have a giant market. We're talking about 61 million Americans with billions of dollars of spending power. So they're actually trying to figure out how can we authentically be more inclusive. So I think, you know, really it's a question for everybody, not just people in the entertainment, but people in the business world. And for smart, like business, you know, up and coming professionals and students, you guys have a huge market that you could tap into. And, you know, from Adobe to Dell, a lot of companies are trying to break into this market because there's a lot of money out there.
Well, it sounds like we all agree that there's a big market, there's a lot of area of opportunity. So where do you see the future going? We have a lot of thought leaders here in the room, aspiring leaders. So where is it going, and how can we all help us get there?
Well, for me, I think it's all about in the independent film. You know, look, I would love to see more and more giant studio movies. I would love to see the next Marvel movie is, you know, X-Men is just me and there's a guy in a wheelchair and a blind person, but, you know, we can't wait for that. We gotta just keep going. And I think the Film Challenge is a great launching pad, and I tell people right after, keep going. This is about collaboration. You know, when I work with one person, I typically work with them again. I was on The Sopranos. That led to me being on Boardwalk Empire. Work leads to work, but I think we all have to keep going and including people with disabilities more, not just as actors, but behind the scenes. And beyond that, I think really what's going to happen is when we're seeing more and more people with disabilities creating short form content, whether it be weekend challenges like the Easterseals Disability Film Challenge, web series, short films in general, the next step is for them to create an independent film and really work on their script. And you know, their network's already in place, and then they're taking that to festivals around the country. And it doesn't have to be Sundance. If you get into Sundance, awesome. But a lot of people are, you know, getting into smaller festivals and really being entrepreneurial in how they're getting their content out there. Because again, we have a giant market that wants to see authentic representation. So for me, I feel like the future is in the independent film movement, in the DSLR cameras. And I think for you guys all, beyond the film challenge, the biggest thing that we as the disability community needs is more amplification, more people tweeting it out there. And when you see an article, whether it be an op-ed about disability inclusion, sharing that. If you're a writer and you have a big platform, write something about it. You know, if you're a studio person or you're working in the studio system, whether it be in film or TV, include more people with disabilities in the background. When you think about 25% of the population, when you're watching a movie or a TV show, how many people with disabilities are you seeing in the background? None. So if we're not there, then we don't exist. And that's all, there's multiple layers.
So having really the visibility is a big part of it, but we also know that having that access and the right equipment and the resources. So do you want to share with us like where we're at, where we're going, and what is needed?
So there's so much possibility, and it's a really exciting time to be in technology. And I, in fact, was just reading an article yesterday about a legally blind filmmaker who had a special camera that used color contrast in a way that he could actually see the image and know what was coming through the lens into his viewfinder, because this piece of equipment was adjusted to work for his specific vision problem. And like, that's super exciting to me. And when I think about our software and all of the different customers that we work with, we get feedback all the time. I can't use your software because X. I can't use your software because Y. Could you make this easier? Can I have different tools? You know, sometimes it's a matter of, instead of using a mouse and a keyboard, can I use a pen and a tablet? Sometimes it's, I need to have everything closed captioned right from the beginning, or I need to be able to look at information as text instead of images, right? So we always want to be having that conversation as a technology company about not only how do we get the software out to you and make it easy to have and to use, but if you have different disabilities, are we building software that actually works for you, right? And is our software malleable enough that we can accommodate and help you out with the work you want to do, regardless of your disability, whether it's physical, visual, hearing, whatever it is. There's always work that we need to be doing with software accessibility so that whoever wants to use it can use it as smoothly and as easily as possible.
Yeah, well, first of all, I got to get this guy a film challenge flyer.
I will give you his contact info.
So you guys have those flyers on your desk too. So, no, I mean that's sort of an amazing thing within this innovation, is that, you know, as people with disabilities, it is a work in progress. We don't have all the answers yet, and I think that's where innovation comes in.
Yeah.
And what's so cool about having companies like Adobe is that they take that feedback, and who knows, they may end up partnering with this guy or they on something. And I think that's the future. This is an open market right now. So we have all these different, for me, I mean, a lot of times I can't reach a certain elevator, or, you know, so I'm almost thinking of a way that I can. Do I need to bring a stick? Is this stick over there going to work for me to get to my floor? Or am I just going to ask this guy? But, you know, as people with disabilities, we're able to, I'm 36, so I've been living with being 3'10" my whole life. So I'm pretty adaptive, and I'm always going to find a solution to what I need done. And I think that's the way that the majority of people within the disability community think about innovation, is let me find a way to make this work for me. And I think if it works for one person, that can be replicated for a lot of other people.
And then you mentioned earlier the power of incentivizing. So how do we incentivize individuals to be both progressive and innovative at the same time and inclusive?
Well, I mean, for us, I found once we got really big mentors, our first really big mentor that came in, because we give out on top of the computers, the grants, the Adobe Cloud, we give out big mentor meetings. So for us, mentorship was a really big way to incentivize people to enter the challenge. Peter Farley was our first really big mentor who directed Dumb and Dumber, Something About Mary, Green Book, which was just nominated for 5 Academy Awards. But not only that, but we've seen that mentors, they don't want it. It's just a one-time mentor meeting for these different people. But a lot of times we're seeing that mentors want to stay involved. Like this last year, Peter Farley called me up and he said, "Nick, I've got this great role for a recurring little person woman. It's a big love arc. Do you have any ideas?" And I was able to send him 10 different films that featured amazing 3-dimensional roles of little people women from around the country. So he auditioned them all. And this up-and-coming theater artist out of New York, Sophia Cheyenne, ended up getting this amazing career-changing opportunity. Wow. But that all came from the mentorship. So mentorship is really key. I think that's, if you're in a position outside of entertainment where you can mentor people, that's a big way to incentivize people to sign up. I mean, we heard the case study before. I mean, that Paramount thing, I'm like, how do I enter that case competition? You know, I mean, that sounded pretty cool, right? You know, we're both like, wait a minute, that sounds pretty awesome. But mentorship is really, I think, a big way to incentivize. Because that doesn't cost your company any money, that doesn't cost you any money, it just costs yourself a little bit of time. And I mentor all the time. I mentor outside of the disability community, I'm mentoring for veterans, and I always feel like I'm learning stuff and it's teaching me things to be a better producer, filmmaker, writer, comedian, speaker, when I'm able to talk to people about giving them advice. So I think that's the biggest incentive for me.
And I think something important too is when you are the person putting together a project or putting together the business plan, or you've got a new idea that you want to pursue, ask yourself who is missing from the table? Who should be there that isn't there, right? Because there will always be someone, whether it's someone of a different gender, someone of a different race, someone from a different culture, someone with a disability. Like, you need to think about that. You need to think about, okay, how homogeneous does my table look, and how do I get different people into the discussion? I think that is really a tangible way that all of us can make progress. And at Adobe, we're always asking ourselves that question, particularly in my role with business development. Who are we talking with? Who are we partnering with? Do we have the right people at the table? Are we casting the net wide enough, or are we still, in this little narrow focused area? So it's a constant challenge, and I think that consciousness about it is really important. And then totally, wholeheartedly agree with Nick. Mentorship is irreplaceable, absolutely super important, because everything comes from relationships, right? And as you build relationships with people who are unlike you, people who come from different backgrounds, and you learn to appreciate and understand other people's perspectives, that's only going to work in your favor.
Yeah, and I think that a really important thing what she just said was you're talking about testing what you're going to do. When I'm putting something out there, I like to test all kinds of different people with disabilities. Hey, is this theme? I won't give anything away because I have people trying to bribe me. What's the contest? What's this? But it's important to make sure that you're authentically reaching who you're trying to reach. So my wife's a little person. She's a woman. She's got a disability. So she ends up being, I'm testing material on her as a comedian. I'm testing, this is what I'm thinking about talking. What does this look like? How does this feel for you? Does this, because you want to make sure that you're expressing who you're trying to reach in an authentic way, because that's a really important. You don't want to, and I think that's what's great about independent film is really when you're creating a short film, this is the time for you to try something new. We don't want you to do something that's already been done. We want to see something innovative. When you're doing a studio movie, $100 million movie, there's no testing anymore. Now you've got serious money, you've got serious commitments, you got to deliver. But I think along the way, when you're coming up, when you're going to create something amazing, you really need to test it and make sure that you have the right audience in mind of who you're trying to reach.
Mm-hmm. So in the spirit of time, I want to ask, we know that there are some heavy hitters here in the crowd today. We have Paramount, who you both have pitched an opportunity to work with them this summer. We have DreamWorks, we have NBCU, we have LA Sparks. So what would you like to share with them specifically of this impact and bringing more to the table and thought leadership and mentorship? If you could have some last remarks of what you'd ask of them.
You want to?
It's like a really heavy question.
For me, the biggest thing is, look, we all talk about the problem of representation. I hear it all the time. Disability is often left out of that. As you opened up, we hear diversity, we never hear disability. Mm. So I think there's a really smart guy named Lawrence Carter Long within the disability community that has something that says, say the word, disability. Mm. All right, we're okay with being called the disabled. And if after a half hour of listening, I think we can all agree that there is a problem. We're underrepresented. I'm asking you to be part of the solution, whether that be in your own company, whether that be thinking about what you're going to do in the future within your company, and really get involved. Help us share. If you're a company that wants to get involved with the Easterseals Disability Film Challenge, I'm not saying we're the ultimate solution, but we are a tangible way that we've been able to create opportunities where people have gone on to screen at thousands of festivals, gotten hired in front of, behind the camera, and all over the world. We're having people speak and share their content all the time. So please spread the word about the Easterseals Disability Film Challenge. Registration's open. We have student discounts. We have all kinds of ways. We're around the country at different activations. But beyond that, really make an effort to think about inclusion of people with disabilities within your own organization.
Yeah, I would 100% echo that. Really think about what you can do in your role, whether it's as a student, a business person, in your personal life. What can you do to make sure that you are being inclusive? Who are you inviting to your table? Who is represented and who is missing? And make it your job to both ask that question and then answer the question and pull people in that may not otherwise have that chance. Because like Nick said, the more exposure underrepresented people get, the more normal it becomes and the less a big deal it is or the less unusual it is, because we become used to building inclusivity into everything that we're doing. And I think that's the ideal place that we all want to get to. We want to see those stories. We want to give those people jobs. We want everyone to be working together, regardless of who you are, where you came from, what disability you might have. Everybody has value to add. So make it your job to look for it and pull that in.
Awesome. Well, let's give Margot and Nick a round of applause.